Okay, so let's proceed with it, inshallah. Okay, so it's the verb that indicates on both the present and the future. So the total amount of meanings that you can get from this single verb is 3. You'll get the present tense, you'll get the simple present tense, you'll also get the present continuous, and there's also a possibility of the future tense. And this is true for active and it's also true for passive. So here's the examples. Yansuru. Yansuru is the active mudare with the helping letters. The 3 translations you get from this verb are: number 1, he helps, and that's what we call simple present tense. So without indicating on whether the action is happening again and again, or is it a prolonged action, it's just a very simple meaning: he helps. Or it could be he is helping, he's actively engaged in the act of helping. Or he will help, that's the future meaning. And passive, the three translations would be: he is helped, meaning that someone else helps him. He is being helped, and finally, he will be helped. Okay, so you could do hitting, you could do eating or drinking, whatever action. He eats, he is eating, he will eat. Okay, that doesn't lend itself too much to passive. So, for example, with hitting, it would be: he is hit, he is being hit, he will be hit. Okay, so that's the meanings associated to the verb. The rest of the presentation will speak about the method of construction. Okay, so fundamentally what makes this verb different than the past tense, the perfect one, is that this one has a letter at the front along with the ending. Okay, conjugation number 1 doesn't have an ending because that's the default one. So when you see that there's no ending at the end, then it means he. The dual will have a particular ending. The masculine plural will have a different ending. So by that you'll be able to distinguish between the conjugations. Okay, so the mudari verb has suffixes as well as prefixes, or you can say that there's a letter at the front, one of 4 particular letters that need to be at the front, and they're contained in the acronym ATAINA. So either a ya will be at the front, a ta, a hamza, or a noon. A ya, a ta, a hamza, or a noon. And the purpose of this letter at the front is to first of all distinguish from the perfect, because the perfect one does not have it. So that's like fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'alu, no letter at the front. This one has a letter at the front. The reason is because you can't leave it to vowels only, because when you're reading without vowels, when you're reading a classical Arabic book, the vowels won't be there. So you need an actual script difference, something that could be written in the text, and that's why the letter's there at the front. So the primary reason why we have the letter is to distinguish between this verb and the perfect one. The perfect one does not have the prefix. Okay, now instead of having a single letter throughout all 14, we have these 4 letters. But since the conjugations are 14, they're going to need to be used more than once. They're going to need to be recycled. So the ya comes in 4 of them. The ya, it comes in the 4 of them, and we'll mention on the next slide which 4. The ta comes in 8 of them. The hamza comes in number 13, and the noon comes in number 14. Okay, so let's continue with it. And then beyond the letter at the front, you're going to have something at the end also. Okay, in the Mahdi, number 1 had no ending. Over here, we can afford to have more of them with no ending because the letter at the front will differentiate. So you see, the conveyance of meaning happening here is different than the way it was happening in the past tense verb. And you'll notice this as we move forward with the development of the table. Okay, so 5 of the conjugations do not have an ending. The 5, there's no ending. It's just the lam position is the last letter in 5 of them. And like I mentioned, what allows that is the fact that the prefix will be different. So there needs to be some difference, and the difference does not need to necessarily be at the end. The beginning can serve to distinguish between the conjugations. The remaining 9 conjugations, they'll have endings, and based on the common ending, they're grouped into groups. So for example, all 4 duals have a common ending, and that would be an alif and a noon. All 4 duals will have an alif and a noon at the end, and the 2 plural masculines have a common ending, and that's the waw coupled with the noon. So you get like luna, luna, and then the beginning portion would distinguish between number 3 and number 9. So number 3 is yaf'aluna, for example. Number 9 is taf'aluna. The 2 plural feminines have only noon. Their suffix is only a noon, and conjugation number 10 has its own ending, which is a ya, preceded by a kasra followed by a noon, so you're going to get lina. So lani occurs 4 times, luna occurs twice, justna twice, and lina will occur in conjugation number 10 when you're speaking to one female. And all of that, you're going to see it as we develop the table and we start showing you the conjugations as they're complete. So step number 1, attach the prefix. Okay, so on all 14 conjugations, you're going to attach one of the 4 following letters, either a ya, a ta, a hamza, or a noon, and it's going to come before the fa position. The fa position is going to become sakin, so you'll hear yaf, taf, af, and naf. So ya will be attached to 4 of them, the top 3, yaf, 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 skip 2, and then yaf on the group of females. Yaf, 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 skip 2, and then yaf. The 2 we just skipped right now would be taf, taf. So now we have yaf, 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 taf, taf, yaf, and then all middle 6 are taf, 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 taf. Conjugation number 13 has the hamza at the front, and conjugation number 14 has the noon. So isolating the front portion, not the entire verb, just the front portion, this is what you should be able to do, and then move on to the next slide. Okay, so you can pause the video at this stage and make sure you can do this properly before moving forward. Here it is. Yaf, 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 taf, taf, yaf, 6 tafs, af, and naf. Okay, so just lift your head from the screen and be able to do that. Yaf, 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 taf, taf, yaf, 6 tafs, af, and naf. And that's like 30% of the entire table, if you can do that. So let's move forward and let's start developing the ending. The 5 singulars, there's no ending, there's no extra letter. Okay, in the Madi table, it was only the first one that had no extra letter, fa'ala, but here we can afford to have more of them with no designated letter at the end, because the front portion will differentiate and distinguish between them, and we'll have a little overlap. Okay, so 5 conjugations do not have any ending, and instead what you will see is that the lam position will have a dhamma. So like the top one, yaf'alu, yaf'alu, and it's complete, nothing further. It means he helps, is helping, will help. Okay, and the fourth one is taf'alu, and there's a clear difference between number 1 and number 4. Number 1 is the when you're speaking about one male, and number 4 is when you're speaking about one female, and they're identical. The only difference is the yaf at the front or the taf at the front. Okay, here you see all 5 of them. Okay, in the title it says 5 singulars. The word singulars is in quotes because it's not entirely accurate, because you see number 10, which is a singular. Okay, remember the association table layout, what we gave to you in week 1, and you should know that cold, like the way it's distributed. Top 6 is third person, middle 6 is second person, and then I and we at the bottom. So when we say 5 singulars, accurately would be 1, 4, 7, 10, and 13 would be 5 singulars. But notice that number 10 is not part of the group. Number 10 will be discussed later. It has its own unique ending. Okay, so we're generalizing a little when we say 5 singulars. Number 14, on the other hand, happens to belong to the group, not because it's a singular, but because it has the same ending. You see, so 5 singulars is just a shorthand, convenient shorthand to refer to the whole group. So yaf'alu is he, taf'alu is she, the other taf'alu is you when you're speaking to one male, and those 2 are identical. So basically the same verb would be used when speaking about a female, and the same identical conjugation would be used when you're speaking to a male. And what allows that recycling is because third person, the occasion of third person is radically different than the occasion of second person. Because when you use the verb as part of a sentence in a paragraph, then it's pretty easy to figure out what's what. Okay, like if you have an evoking, like you say, oh Zayd taf'alu, then obviously that's conjugation number 7. But when you say Fatima tu taf'alu, then obviously that would be conjugation number 4. You see, so that's using the same one twice. Af'alu clearly distinct, that's the I one, and naf'alu is when the doer of the verb is the speaker himself. Group. Okay, and back in the Madi, I think 1.3, people asked that question about if you have a mixed group of males and females, what do you do? Then in conjugation number 14 it doesn't matter because gender becomes irrelevant. And if it was third person, then you would use conjugation number 3. And if it was second person, you would use the pronoun that's reserved for a group of males. Okay, so when there's males and females together being talked about, then it's the male group that's chosen for that purpose. Anyways, that was a side topic. Let's continue. يفعل تفعل تفعل أفعل نفعل. Okay, now we're going to speak about the four duals. All four duals have the common ending of alif and noon. So يفعل يفعلان would be the second one. تفعل تفعلان would be the fifth one. Like that. Okay, but first you can see the table being developed here. The new conjugations are highlighted in yellow, and we still have a bunch of slots to fill. Okay, the duals and the plural still need to be talked about, so let's move forward with the four duals. The ending of the four duals is the alif and noon, like we mentioned earlier, and the lam position will have a fatha, and that's obviously because the alif needs a fatha. Alif necessitates a fatha prior to it, so you're going to get lani, 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 lani 4 times. And when we say four duals, we literally mean four duals, and it's not like we were generalizing previously. We said singulars, but number 14 was part of the group. Over here is the actual four duals that are being talked about, and you can see them all on the screen. Yaf'alani is conjugation number 2. Now notice 5, 8, and 11. 5 is when you're speaking about 2 females. 8 is when you're speaking to 2 males, and number 11 is when you're speaking to 2 females. All 3 of those are identical. Taf'alani, taf'alani, taf'alani. Now the overlap between 8 and 11 is understandable because that happened in Madi also. Fa'altuma, fa'altuma, it came twice. Remember that? Fa'alta, fa'altuma, fa'altum, fa'alti, fa'altuma, fa'altunna. It's not a big deal because in English they make no distinction. They say you, regardless of whether you're speaking to a male or a female, 2 males, 2 females, group of females. It's the same pronoun used for all 6 of those. Well, actually, there's only 4 in English because there's no dual in English. But the point is that there's no differentiation between masculine and feminine in English. So here in Arabic, normally we would have a differentiation like you're seeing between 2 and 5. Number 2 is for the 2 males, yaf'alani. Number 5 is for when you're speaking about 2 females, taf'alani. So those 2 are different. In second person, it becomes irrelevant. Doesn't matter whether you're speaking to 2 males or you're speaking to 2 females, you're going to use the same verb for that. Okay, so now take these 4 and combine it with the previous 5, and we have the entire table. You can see it on the next screen.